It's 9 o'clock. You're listening to KCSB-FM in Santa Barbara. Time now for the Pursuit of Happiness.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The following program deals with a mature subject in a mature manner. This program may contain material or language that will offend some adults and may not be appropriate for young children. If you feel you will be offended by a frank discussion of a controversial subject or by objectionable language, please tune out now and rejoin us in 1 hour. This is KCSB-FM, Santa Barbara, alternative radio for the Tri-Counties.
Okay, welcome again to the Pursuit of Happiness, everybody. I'm Sean Hannity, your host, and if you like talk radio, this is the place to be, folks. Santa Barbara's only live local talk show at this hour. We're here every Tuesday between 9 and 10, talking about the issues that do affect your life. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very controversial subject today, and that's why I played that little disclaimer before the show. We're going to be talking about AIDS and homosexuality, so if you have young people in the audience that are listening, you're definitely going to want to tune them out, because I don't think some of the material that we'll be talking about today they're going to want to hear. Folks, with me on the phone from Texas today is going to be Gene Antonio. He wrote a book, The AIDS Cover-Up, The Real and Alarming Facts About AIDS. And I must say before we get started today that I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of the media and the homosexual community preventing us from getting the true, accurate information about AIDS and in this day. This is a deadly, deadly disease. Now, what Mr. Antonio has done is he's compiled all the information that was available from all the different medical communities, and what he's done is he's wrote a very shocking, very alarming book that I think you're going to want to listen to and hear what he has to say. Let me see. Gene, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me tune you up here. We have a bad connection. Gene, let me tell you, what about this AIDS cover-up? What is this bottom line in this book to start with? What is the cover-up all about that the media is hiding from the general public?
There are major aspects of this disease which are not being disclosed to the American public. Just to give you a couple of examples.
Yeah, go ahead.
The AIDS virus is allowing for tuberculosis to come back because it's suppressing the immune system, and tuberculosis is breaking out in epidemic proportions among AIDS carriers. Tuberculosis is a bacterial disease that is readily spread by coughing, and we hear very little about that. And clearly, AIDS carriers who have TB should be isolated from the general population. Many AIDS carriers, in fact most, have chronic Epstein-Barr virus infection, and they're shedding Epstein-Barr or EBV through their coughing, oropharyngeal secretions, they're called technically. Right. And this it can spread the yuppie syndrome and so forth, but they're chronically, incessantly excreting, or what's called shedding, the virus.
Yeah.
Many AIDS carriers are shedding CMV. CMV is a virus which, to most people, is fairly innocuous, but if a woman is pregnant and contracts it during her pregnancy, her baby can be born dead or brain damaged, retarded, deformed, and so forth. But these are secondary infections associated with AIDS, which we hear very little about.
Right. Now, in the beginning, in the foreword of your book, you have Dr. William A. Hasteline, from the AIDS researcher from Harvard Medical School, and he says, and I quote, "The AIDS epidemic will produce an enormous and frightening effect on the World Health and public health officials may be relatively powerless to contain it." And he also explains at a different point that, contrary to what we hear in the general media, that you can get AIDS from saliva, from tears, that there's a casual transmission is very possible. And you go into this into your book as well. Why haven't the general public, is this sort of a brainwashing, if you want my opinion, going on, where they don't want the general public to get the true information about this disease? It seems like it's they're trying to hide the facts to keep the public from getting alarmed about it, because they're afraid perhaps of the backlash that they might receive, the homosexuals might receive. Are we catering to this homosexual lobby?
Well, that's a very good question you raised. You know that Purdy, I think his name is, who...
Patrick Purdy, right.
Yeah, who massacred those children out there.
Right.
And started the hysteria for, assault rifle, so-called control. We won't get into that, but...
I did a show on that last week.
You know that he was a homosexual prostitute then?
I know he was. But they're not releasing that fact. It hasn't come out that much in the media.
Well, that, of course not. And, I mean, there's a reason for that. Clearly we have documented public record that he was a homosexual prostitute.
Yes.
There's also suggestive evidence based on his behavior, we can't prove this at the present time, that he may have had what is called AIDS virus dementia, or AIDS brain disease.
That's right.
The AIDS virus itself eats away the brain just as if you were dropping acid on some plastic, or hot metal and on butter, if you would. The brain literally looks like a piece of Swiss cheese after a while.
Now, the general public, all they think, the way you're going to die from disease is that your body, your immune system is shot, and that opportune infection. They're not aware of this dementia aspect that you bring up and that you've wrote about in your book.
Well, you're absolutely right. This is clearly documented by the Centers for Disease Control now, our United Bastion of Public Health in Atlanta. So this is nothing that is not accepted in the medical profession. In fact, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, includes dementia as part of AIDS, but they refuse, Sean, to tell that to the American public.
It's horrifying to think that they will control such information that I think is vital. Look, if you are a doctor and you want to make a good decision, you have to have all the facts in. But never before, I think, in the history of diseases, due to political pressure from the homosexuals, we start suppressing all this information. It's absurd. And as you were saying about Patrick Purdy, they have a vial of his blood. Have you heard of Dr. Cameron?
Yes, I have.
And he was on a talk show here in town, and he was saying that they will not test that blood to see if he has AIDS.
That's what I understand.
Yeah, and, to me, we're protecting this information when in the past, when other horrifying diseases were around, we would always quarantine and do facts to protect the general public. And here it seems like a very distinct effort, from all the information, and I've read a lot on this disease, and you know a lot more than I do because you followed it from the very beginning. They're protecting information to support it. Is the political pressure that strong from the homosexuals?
Well, it has been, but it of course is waning.
Yeah.
Because there are so many that are dying. In fact, there was recently an article in the Houston Post which said that there's now very little leadership among the homosexual militants and AIDS militants in Houston because their leadership has been dying in droves of AIDS.
Oh, jeez.
So, and we're seeing this around the country. If you pick up any homosexual magazine like The Advocate, or there's some others, which you compare the obituary columns now and 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, now they have pages and pages of them. And in California, the blitz to fight Congressman William Dannemeyer's excellent AIDS initiative was just astounding. They poured in millions and millions and millions of dollars, that is the homosexual groups, to fight his propositions, but now they're running scared because they know the next time for sure it will pass. I mean, the public outcry will be so great that they'll have to let it pass. The bathhouses are wide open all over California. I have a copy of the 1989 Gay Travel Guide. That is a literal travel guide.
Yeah.
And these bathhouses are wide open from Los Angeles. They are still open in San Francisco, contrary to what we've heard. I have see the ads for them in front of my face.
Right.
They're open in San Diego and Sacramento and all over the state. And until these are closed, to talk about fighting AIDS with education is like talking about handing out stomach pumps at a restaurant, or where, let's say, Sean, you have an outbreak of food poisoning at a half a dozen restaurants around your town.
Okay.
And the health department says, well, we can't tell anybody where those restaurants are because that would stigmatize them. They might not want to go in there and eat a salad or a hamburger if they knew that the chef had hepatitis or shigellosis, which causes dysentery. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell everybody to practice universal eating precautions wherever they go.
I know, it's insane.
And we're going to hand out a portable stomach pump. So at the first signs of sickness, immediately, vomit, expectorate, and take some medicine.
The logic is insane, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, what you do is if you get a guy in the hospital, he's got shigellosis, which is a bowel disease, which also affects AIDS carriers and homosexuals. They have what's called a gay or sort of happy bowel syndrome, where their bowels just gets eaten away by all these parasites. And so somebody's reported to the health authority, and they said, where'd you get shigellosis? Oh, at restaurant A. Well, fine. We go to that restaurant, and we shut down that restaurant, and we find out who is infected. We run tests, and we don't let anybody eat there until that thing is solved. And that's what should be done with AIDS. We should be closing these bathhouses where these men go to have 20 and 30 partners. I just got a brochure. I was just looking at it in the mail.
Yeah.
For the gay travel services.
Yeah, you're telling us.
Yeah, well, these are travel services which organize cruises all over the world.
God.
So you have these AIDS carriers going out and spreading this terrible scourge all over the planet.
It's terrible.
We have to fight and we have to challenge it. And here in the state of Texas, we have filed some very excellent legislation to overcome that.
Yeah.
We have legislation which allows for testing for food handlers, policemen, and others who could have AIDS. We have legislation which says it is a doctor's duty to inform a spouse that the guy has AIDS if he doesn't want to tell her.
Right.
We have other legislation which involves making sure that if anyone knowingly, intentionally exposes somebody else to AIDS and doesn't tell that person, let's say they have, intercourse with that person, or
like Rock Hudson, our buddy.
Yeah, your friend, right out there in California, but that person is subject to criminal penalties.
Yeah. Listen, let's get some numbers, because you've been following it. Has it slowed down at all, or what is the rate of progression now? What are the latest facts? I know what I've been hearing lately in the news is that we're getting these spin-off viruses that are mutating, and each one is individually different from the other one, and that it's going to be, partly because it's an RNA virus, which you can maybe explain, it's going to be incredibly hard to find any kind of cure or anything updated. What are the numbers in terms of, are we growing with it, and are we going to find a cure any too soon?
Well, first of all, the reality is that many of those who were the most rabidly promiscuous in the homosexual subculture have died. You have scores of thousands of people who've been rabidly, frenetically promiscuous, having 500 to 1,000 partners a year, and they have died. And a lot of the people that haven't yet died are very sick. So those people are incapable of spreading the disease. The dead and those who are very sick and emaciated, they may become impotent or lose, they suffer great loss of libido.
I saw, they showed on television from the time a person got the disease till the time they died. Have you seen one of those segments yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, they would, show somebody when they first got the disease. It was on like West 57th, one of those shows. I've never seen anything more horrifying. It is the slowest, the ugliest, the most disgusting death I think anyone could ever go through. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. The slow deterioration of the body, it's incredibly horrifying to me when they showed this from the time the person was aware that he had the disease through the ending stage when he died. It was really horrifying.
Well, it is horrifying, and it's even more horrifying that we're letting the groups that have been at the root cause of spreading this disease through promiscuous sodomy use this disease to further a political agenda.
And you know what? I'm telling you, I'm sure you've gotten this. You've now been on TV and radio stations across the country, you know, and I'm sure they call you homophobic. They're so twisted in their thinking that if you say anything negative against homosexuality, we've turned so decadent, I think, that they switch it around. There's something wrong with you.
Well, you were right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we are reaching a stage, and it's very simple.
Right.
Where we're at right now. You have, for example, you had a private religious rehabilitation center in Wisconsin, and they take boys who have been juvenile delinquents, come from broken homes, and they have sort of a dormitory and home cottage facility where they put a married heterosexual couple as overseers for a dozen boys. In several different cottage or dormitory settings. The couple has their own little cottage, and they look after the boys and provide love and nurture and encouragement for them. And lo and behold, the state was going to come in, because they have a statewide homosexual forced hiring law, and say they were going to have a homosexual and a lesbian come in posing as a married couple. This is what the Human So-Called Rights Commission was going to do.
Unbelievable. This is so obscene.
Yeah, you talk about sexual McCarthyism here. I mean, this is it. And before they did that, they came in, Sean, and said to this establishment, what's called the Rawhide Boys Ranch, which was founded by a former professional football player for the Green Bay Packers, came in and said, you sign here, you will hire homosexuals and lesbians to be role models for these boys. You'll hire homosexual couples, sodomy practitioners.
Yeah.
Or we will rip the boys out of your home in 48 hours and distribute them where they will. And they distribute them to homosexual couples as well. I mean, they allow for homosexuals to adopt in the state of Wisconsin.
That is really sick. There's something really wrong. I think anyone listening to the show that believes homosexuality is just a normal lifestyle has been brainwashed. And, you know, it's very dangerous if we start accepting lower and lower forms of behavior as the normal. They try and equate homosexuality with, with the rights of, say, minorities. They try and group it in the same link, and it has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? But,
well, I know precisely what you mean. And no matter how they try to paint the picture that homosexual behavior is normal, the fact is, even prior to the AIDS epidemic, there were massive epidemics of hepatitis. Hepatitis B, the bad kind, give you liver cancer, cirrhosis, and chronic...
My family's filled with nurses and doctors, and they said this for years. You know, my sister was a nurse in Bellevue Hospital in New York, and she said all the gay people, they constantly in the hospital with these really weird diseases. Hepatitis B was a main one, all these bowel diseases, you know, the strangest form of disease. And she even can document, and she swears that way before they even diagnosed AIDS, that she saw patients who had that disease. It just wasn't diagnosed at that time. You mentioned that in your book, that it was around perhaps as early as 1970? 1960s. 1960s.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Well, these are because of practices involving ingestion of human waste, of stool. These men eat one another's fecal matter, and people say, "That? What are you talking? That is so off. That is bizarre. What are you talking about? This is called scat."
You just blew the whole audience out of Santa Barbara. I'll have you know.
Well, that is reality, though. If you pick up a copy of the homosexual magazines, they have advertisements for giving and receiving enemas, and these are not fringe magazines. These are the standard fare of the homosexual subculture. When I say subculture, the entire group is a subculture. It's not a community per se. It is a subculture of people engaging in deviant, twisted acts. So they literally will defecate in one another's mouth. They will practice activities called rimming, where they actually eat fecal matter. They will have
golden showers.
Well, that's urination, but that's another thing. But the fecal matter exchange is very important for people to realize that, because many homosexual men are food handlers. They like to deal with food, or many of them are male nurses as well. Not all male nurses are homosexual by any means, but many of them are. And what happens is when they do this, they keep exchanging and swapping fecal matter from person to person. Let's say they have oral sex after the guy has sodomized them or just sodomized someone else in a bathhouse, and then they perform oral sex on them. They pick up the fecal matter in their mouth, swallow it, and these carry parasites. That's how you pick up, like, Montezuma's Revenge. If you go down to Tijuana and eat a hamburger or a taco that you shouldn't, off a vendor, and you pick up this incredible dysentery, well, that's how they keep swapping this stuff back and forth. And the rate of intestinal parasitism in the homosexual subculture is enormous.
Right.
There was a recent study shown in the American Journal of Gastroenterology, it was about 11 months ago, on the prevalence of these bowel diseases in homosexual men with and without AIDS. And it is mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling.
1988 this study was done, and they're still engaging in these practices involving human waste. They just aren't getting the message.
And they still refuse, again, and the pressure's out. This is an alternative lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with this. They want to be able to teach this to your children. Do you want these people teaching your children this stuff in schools?
Well, that's what you had. You had that in Project 10 out there.
It's incredible.
Where, this book, Project 10, was used. Project 10 is part of a national project on the part of homosexual militants. Have you done a program on that already?
No, I haven't.
Well,
I will.
Yeah, you may want to interview Lou Sheldon out there.
Okay, I'm going to write his name down.
Because he's been spearheading that, and he's really familiar with it, and he's a very heroic individual.
Yeah.
But at any rate, this project teaches that 1 in 10 of children are homosexual or lesbian. Well, that is part of the Kinsey myth that has been debunked so soundly. Kinsey had his own problems. When he would do studies, he would actually masturbate infants and 1-year-old boys.
Oh, God.
I mean, this is sick stuff. This is depravity,
America's lost its virtue, Gene. I think we've just come to, if they practice in this stuff, that's one thing, but we've also, as a society, we accept this as normal.
You're right. And let me finish. What happened was they were handing out this book called 1 in 10. 1 teenager in 10. To thousands of teenagers. They were letting homosexuals and lesbians come in these high schools to proselytize these poor boys and girls.
Okay.
They weren't poor financially. I mean, just poor in the sense that it's so pathetic that this was allowed. And they explicitly described this one supposed girl. These are supposed ostensible testimonies of teenagers. They're rather extraordinarily well-written and all have the underlying theme of the older lesbian with the young girl and the older male with the young boy sodomizing them. So, it's just pure propaganda. Well, this one description of the 16-year-old girl and her first account with lesbian oral sex, and it's just pornographic. I wouldn't read it over the radio. The other one, among many others, is about a guy. He sees this older man that he had just fallen in love with. He just met that night. He said, I was in love. He'd never been sodomized before, and he's describing how the guy comes out with a towel, with a tube of KY, preparing him to be sodomized, and says, the guy was hung like a Greek god, and I was like a bride on my honeymoon.
Yeah.
This is the kind of horrendous material which, if we don't fight tooth and nail, our children and young people or friends or younger brothers and sisters will be saturated with this. And what's happening in a nutshell is this. These people know they're going down. They know they're dying in droves. They see it. They see their friends. They go to the gay bar and they see, what happened to old Harry? What happened to Jerry? Oh, he's dead. Oh, he's in the hospital. So instead of turning around and undergoing some kind of psychic metamorphosis and saying, we have really played the wrong end of the horse on this whole deal. I mean, we better warn these young people to wake up and stay away from homosexuality, just like a drug addict would say, we got to tell kids to say no to drugs.
Right.
These guys are actually using the epidemic to promote sodomy.
And they want to get more funding. So what they wanted to do is get it in the heterosexual community so then it's more accepted.
That's exactly.
And now they get more funding.
That's exactly it.
And you see, whenever you say that it's a gay disease, they constantly fight back and say, they give you all these reasons in Africa it's not a gay disease.
Right.
But there's, you describe this in your book, there's correlations. Why, you describe the activities of homosexuals, but there's also, I remember they showed on one of the TV programs, a Haitian lady who was selling food, and you know where she was selling it from? On top of a sewer. So there's similarities between the way they live and the way they are in Haiti and these other third world countries. You know, the sanitary practices.
No, you're exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head. And what they're trying to do is, on a federal level as well as a state level, if someone has AIDS or is a member of a risk group for AIDS, what makes you a member of a risk group for AIDS? Well, they've ruled out needle sharing. They say, well, if you share needles, you're not considered protected under the law.
Yes.
So what is the number one other so-called risk group for AIDS?
Intravenous drug users.
Pardon me?
Men, homosexuals, and intravenous...
Yes, but they've ruled out, under federal law, what I'm driving at is they say, no, people who use drugs aren't protected.
Right.
You know, but people who engage in male-male rectal penile sodomy are now a member of risk group. So a guy comes home, and let's say he's in a college, and he finds his roommate buggering another guy, and he reports him and says, I don't want him here.
Yes.
And the college says, yeah, we prefer not to have practicing homosexuals here. He can turn around and say, my engaging in rectal buggery has made me handicapped. I mean, this is crazy, man.
It really is crazy.
That's like a drunk driver who's picked up, he's just run over 2 or 3 people, he's killed them, and he says, look, my drunkenness makes me handicapped. You can't do anything to me. It's not my fault.
The logic is insane. This is the cause of liberalism in this country, too, Gene. This is how low we've sunk. And it's very dangerous. People are going to, I'm sure we're going to get lots of letters to the station complaining about this show, but I think people need to understand. They need the shocking sense of what actually goes on in these communities, because we're not aware of it, you know, because we're so far removed. If you're not a part of that lifestyle and you say, oh, well, I accept that lifestyle, it's up to them if they want to do this. Now it's gotten serious. Now it's in our backyard, in a sense. What are the dangers of now it's in the heterosexual community? It's more.
Well, it is more because of so many bisexual men. That is the main reason. It is not the drug addicts, as they have wanted us to believe, because that takes the heat. What they basically painted a picture saying, all these guys who have been practicing sodomy have turned into little angels overnight.
Right.
And this is the great myth, the great damning lie that we've heard. Now, they are the angels. It just happened to waft its way down in the homosexual quote-unquote community. And they didn't even know it hit them. It just sort of happened like moon dust falling out from a meteor or something, you know?
Yeah.
And now they have all changed because of education. Well, first of all, they haven't all changed. There's a lot of lying going on by public health officials. In many areas, the AIDS so-called resource centers or community groups and health clinics are run by homosexuals, and they have a vested interest in trying to promote their own agenda and prove that there has been dramatic change.
Right. But
the obituary columns don't lie. Sometimes they do, but you see a lot of deaths and hear about a lot of deaths that are simply not reported. Secondly, so there's underreporting of venereal disease and underreporting of AIDS as well.
Right.
And these guys, a lot of them are married. A lot of them have girlfriends. You know, they go to the bathhouse. I mean, they have special youth locker nights. So if you're 18 or over, you go in these bathhouses for a couple bucks because they love young bodies. That's young, firm bodies is the meat, the sine qua non of the homosexual subculture.
They want to corrupt all the youth of this country.
That's exactly right. So they corrupt these young...
These disgusting people, I can't stand it anymore. They're up in San Francisco, these young runaways that are so vulnerable, they have nothing, they're on the street, and these disgusting people, they just ruin these kids' lives, you know? Because instead of helping them on the street, all they do is use their bodies. And they, as you said, when a new piece of meat gets on the market, that's the one that gets the highest price, that's the one they want. It's really sick, you know?
And that's what they want. So these girls are going to school. You know, they came out and said 1 out of 300 college students are infected with AIDS. I think that's CDC. But what they didn't tell you is the proportion among that group which are homosexual. And I have not been able to find that out yet, but I wouldn't doubt if it was 80 or 90%.
Yeah.
And that figures, you know. So we have to take steps to protect people. We need contact tracing. We need isolation of those who are knowingly spreading this disease around. We need to allow restaurants to test their employees because so many of them have not only AIDS but other diseases. And we need to fight legislatively. We cannot let this become any more firmly entrenched than it is, or we're not going to have a society left, because it will be the inmates running the prison the insane running the asylum, the monkeys running the zoo. The analogies can go on and on.
Yeah.
But this is not how you run an epidemic.
No, it's not.
If you were trying to formulate sound, effective public policy regarding drunk driving, and you had a bunch of slobbering drunks who were wrecked out of their minds come and say, we demand in slurring speech to be on the task force. Because not having a drunk on the task force is like not having a Jew on the committee to decide what to do to the people who ran Auschwitz.
Isn't it insane?
That's crazy,
They did that to, remember President Reagan put together that task force? They did that very thing to him, remember? And the media was screaming bloody murder that they didn't have a homosexual on the committee.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Why didn't they have a drug addict on there? Why didn't they have a prostitute on there who's a practicing, ongoing prostitute who can educate us all? That's not how you run an epidemic.
After the break, why don't we get back? I want to talk to you about the Surgeon General's report a little bit that says you won't get AIDS from saliva, sweat, tears, urine, or bowel movement, and you can't get AIDS from a kiss.
Okay.
All right, we'll get back to you. Anyway, it's 9:30 here at KCSB. I'm Sean Hannity. This is The Pursuit of Happiness. We every Tuesday at 9. Talk radio at its best, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking today with Gene Antonio, author of The AIDS Cover-Up, the alarming facts about AIDS, and he's compiled a list. He's looked at every possible examination into this disease, all the major health organizations, and he's compiled an excellent book, and a little later on we're going to tell you how you can get a hold of it. It's shocking to homosexuals. They're up in arms. I can see them crying in tears. But we're going to give them a chance to get on the line. The numbers here are KCSB 961-2424, 961-2425, 961-2426. If you want to join in this conversation, if you want to ask, if you want to get the real truth about this disease, you might want to call in. You can talk with Gene Antonio. 961-2424, 2425, 2426. And we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Hello, music lovers. This is Greg Drust inviting you to a Tuesday afternoon rendezvous with the blues and American music back at the Chicken Shack. Between noon and 2, we explore diverse genres of American music, embracing roots rock, country, and ethnic sounds. Between 2 and 4:45, we let those blues pour down with the finest recordings from the 20s through the 80s, exclusive performer interviews, and many special features just for you. So it's a date, Tuesday, noon until 4:45 here on KCSB, back at the Chicken Shack.
Every Sunday morning from 6 to 9, listen to Reverend Matt Brown as he presents the Better Way Gospel Hour. That's every Sunday morning from 6 to 9 on your alternative radio station, KCSB FM in Santa Barbara.
I want to hold.
Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Pursuit of Happiness. I'm Sean Hannity. With me on the phones today is Gene Antonio, who's the author of The AIDS Cover-Up. And again, we still have open lines at 961-2424, 961-2425. If you want to get the truth,
the real truth about this deadly, deadly disease, he's not afraid to say what the homosexuals don't want you to hear. So, but now, for those of you listening to KCSB, Michelle DeRay is on from 6 to 8, and she's been in the studio, and she's dying to get on. She has something to say. Michelle, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
You have to press the left-right button on that.
They're on.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you registered?
Can you hear Jean?
Yes, I can.
You can hear her?
No, I can't hear her.
Okay. Why don't you come in here, Michelle, because we can't get you through. I'm sorry about that for those of you listening. Again, 961-2424, 961-2425, 961-2426 if you want to join this conversation. Michelle, you had something to say to Gene Antonio. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Antonio. I've been following AIDS for a long time now. As a journalist, I've been particularly following it and doing some coverage on it myself. And I'm greatly, greatly offended by what you're saying, that homosexuals in this country are responsible for AIDS. That's bullshit. That's entirely not true. Sure, yeah, AIDS is really prevalent among the homosexual community here, but there are plenty of heterosexuals who are doing much more irresponsible behavior. And I'm just greatly offended that you stereotype homosexuals by saying they all like to cook, they want to corrupt our children, they shouldn't be allowed to teach these things. First of all, they're not teaching these things in school. They may be teaching, but they're not teaching children how to sodomize. And if someone's going to be homosexual, that's their decision. It's not like someone's going to go and convince them to be homosexual. It's up to the person. And equating them with insane people, monkeys, slobbering drunks, I pulled those quotes from what you were saying, it's just ridiculous. And I'm just greatly offended by your ignorance of the subject.
Well, number one, just in terms of talking the facts, clearly we know that homosexual sodomy behavior has spread this disease at a rate so astronomical that if it wasn't for this behavior, we'd have very little AIDS. We don't have anything like a bathhouse.
That's not entirely true. What about in the countries where it's just as prevalent in the heterosexual community?
Let's just talk about the United States.
Why just talk about the United States when you're avoiding the facts?
Let him make a point about the homosexuals. Go ahead.
You've been making a point about the homosexuals for half an hour now, and I think that it's high time that you talk about the things that are going on in the rest of the world.
Well, the reality is, though, that if you look at countries like Africa...
First of all, Africa is not a country.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. It was just a slip of the tongue. But there are continents, and you look at Central Africa, you'll find in parts a very high rate of hepatitis B, which is a liver disease, but you don't find that same high rate in the heterosexual population here. It doesn't exist. The only people generally who are getting hepatitis B would be, number one, homosexual men, which runs about 90%. In the general heterosexual population, the rate of hepatitis B maybe runs 2 or 3% at the most. Why is that? The reason for it is the behavior of homosexual men the behavior itself has been directly responsible for the transmission of this disease in a way which normal heterosexual behavior never could. And number two, the social patterns, the promiscuity, where you have men having...
I had a question on that. The way that normal heterosexual behavior couldn't?
That's correct. Obviously, we know unequivocally that rectal sodomy or anal copulation is much, much more able to spread this disease, at least it has been till the present time, than has normal heterosexual coitus, because the male and female genitals are designed for one another. The vagina is designed for intercourse. The rectum is not. There's just no way around that. And so... this points out the abnormality of homosexual behavior.
Let me just make a point here. Gene, I just wanted to say one thing. There is a very vast difference also in that normal heterosexual sex, produces children, and that is a big difference. And you describe in your book the various rippings, the destroying of the body that occurs during sodomy. And
yeah, that's right.
And this just shows you that it's against nature. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but that's not proof that it goes against nature. Because
why doesn't it happen in heterosexual activity?
Well, the point that I'm going to make to show that it is normal behavior is because it happens in nature itself. There are animal groupings that
very rare.
It's not very rare. It's been studied that it happens.
You're talking about rectal sodomy, or copulation as being very common among animals?
I've never heard that. Yeah, what animal are you talking about? I never heard that.
Even homosexuals I know never say anything like that. I mean, that's off the wall, man.
I'm not saying that it's common. I'm just saying that it's happened. That it happens in nature. That it's just...
Whoa, what are you talking about? What animals?
What animals?
Animals, I believe it was bears that were studied.
Well, forget. All right, listen, Gee, we're going to let this go. No, I'm going to go to some phone calls. Numbers, we have two lines open, 961-2425, 961-2426. Let me see, we have Gene Antonio on the line. We're going to go to 2424 with Jody May. Jody, welcome to the Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, I've got a few comments. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm a lesbian. I'm the producer of Gay Lesbian Perspectives on Wednesday nights here in KC.
Oh, yeah, you're going to invite me on?
Sure.
Good.
I've got a few comments to make. One is that when you talk about the animal kingdom, first of all, there was a study done by UCSB a number of years back on some lesbian seagulls out in the islands out there.
Lesbian seagulls?
Yep. I mean, you're obviously not going to believe this. You're obviously not going to believe this because it really won't matter what it is that I say, what kind of statistics that I will give you with regard to anything along this subject line, because I think you're using this forum to perpetuate your own hatred towards a group of people.
Exactly.
And that I find particularly offensive. I have a son, okay, and I just gave birth to him about 8 weeks ago, and I certainly hope that he
artificial
doesn't grow
insemination.
up like
Aren't you married to a woman, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we just want to get that out. Gene, there's a show on here. It's called Gay and Lesbian Perspectives. You know, this is a college station, so you get all sorts of shows.
I'm not a college student.
And okay, and this lady just had a child. You know how they do that now?
Yeah, turkey-baster babies.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
That's also a really disgusting remark.
I feel sorry for your child, but do you want to make any more comments?
I don't, actually, because I really feel that it's really an actual opportunity for me to raise a son who will be a broad-minded individual, who will love women, who will love men, whoever he decides, and that he won't be anything like either one of you.
Oh, okay. Is that your last comment?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to Terry. We have open lines at 961-2424, 961-2426. If you want to join this conversation, Gene Antonio, author of The AIDS Cover-Up. Terry, live on The Pursuit of Happiness. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. I would like to say, I don't care. I know what this is getting very sick here, but God made, to me, I know everybody has their own thinking, you know, and I feel to myself, okay, this is what I think, okay, I just want to say what I think. I think that God made man to be with man, man to be with woman, and woman to be with man, and all the rest of this crap, AIDS is really judgmental, and I don't like the fact of women being married to another woman and men being married to another man. I don't like it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for your call, Terry.
All right. Sean,
yeah, go ahead.
The goal of people, these homosexuals and lesbians,
yeah.
I'll never be able to think of a seagull the same way. You know?
Yeah.
But, and I might add this, homosexual behavior, rectal sodomy, is about as normal as trying to eat a carrot by shoving it in your ear.
I agree with that. And let me tell you, they're lining up outside. I'm telling you, you're not going to believe the responses are getting. People...
if the phone line starts making a sharp sound like it did in Dr. Strangelove, I'll know what happened. But.
Okay, let me give the numbers again. 961-2424, 961-2425, 961-2426. We're speaking this morning with Gene Antonio, author of The AIDS Cover-Up. Gene, I just want to go into a little bit in terms of the physical aspects, just so people know of what happens when you're a homosexual. Why is that so prone to diseases as it has been?
Listen, when you engage in rectal sodomy, first of all, the rectum is designed to expel feces, not take in a penis. And so what happens is the body rebels against that. Many homosexuals have colitis or spastic colon because their body internally is rebelling against that process.
Yes.
Many homosexuals have dribbling of fecal matter because their sphincter loses its tightness and firmness from repeatedly being forced to engage in act in which it's not supposed to. Also, many homosexuals had immune suppression even without AIDS because the vagina is designed for intercourse. When sperm is deposited in the vagina, it can either travel up and you can become pregnant, but it is not absorbed into the bloodstream.
And not only that, the system is designed perfectly in terms of lubrication occurs.
Exactly
all these things are natural, so it's ready, receptive.
That's right.
And it open for it.
Yes.
And the end result is children. It's a natural process.
And that's right. Even when there's no children or there's no conception, that sperm is not absorbed in the bloodstream, whereas in rectal sodomy it is. So clearly the rectum is not a place for copulating. And the immune suppression which we have seen in the homosexual population, it's a direct result not only of other diseases such as hepatitis and the parasitism, but of rectal sodomy. In plain, simple terms, a man and a man cannot have intercourse. They may commit sodomy, rectal, oral, or otherwise, but they cannot have intercourse because only a man and a woman can unite gentlemen of the opposite sex. The other thing is I want to comment about this lesbian marriage and homosexual marriage, which just makes me want to throw up. I think I'm so sorry for these children. Some of them.
I can't believe we let this happen.
Well, at any rate, if that becomes legalized, any church group which will not marry homosexual men together and lesbians together will lose their tax-exempt status, which is what they want. These homosexuals are filled with hatred and bigotry and anti-sexual heterophobia.
Right.
And they will destroy churches and ministries which will not marry them or tolerate them and say this is a good behavior. and this is specifically stated in their writings.
Yeah. Okay, you want to go to more phone calls?
Sure.
Okay, we have Dan here from Isla Vista. Dan, welcome to the Pursuit of Happiness, Your Life. Dan, you with us? Hello? Dan, we'll give you one more time. Dan, are you with us? Okay, well, we'll let that go. We'll go to 2525. We have open lines at 961-2426. 961-2424 is open. This is Terry. Terry, you with us from Goleta?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, I have a question. I know. Okay, this is 1989 we have right here, right?
Welcome aboard.
Okay, and you have women getting married to another woman and everything else.
Right.
And what's going to happen in the next 10 years? What are they going to be doing? Getting married to dogs and birds and stuff like that?
I don't know.
We're not designed. I mean, God made Adam and Eve. Okay, He didn't make Eve and Elaine. You know what I'm saying?
Eve for Steve, not Adam and Steve.
Huh?
Eve for Steve and not for Adam and Steve.
Yeah, not for Adam and Steve. You know what I'm saying? I don't really like nobody, you know, to get on a radio and say it's okay, you know, for homosexuals and lesbian acts it's okay.
Well, you know something? I'm glad you mentioned animals, because they have had meetings, literally, of the SPCA, the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, in Dallas and elsewhere around the country, because these homosexuals were cutting the claws off of gerbils and prying their teeth out and stuffing them up their rectums. It's called gerbil stuffing.
Oh, my God.
I believe you. They're getting sick with it. Crazy.
It's just this perversion. They don't know what to do. They're frantic in the search for a substitute woman. And no matter what, they put fists up the rectum. They're now talking, this is with taxpayer money, which we have to stop, about safe fisting, where they take a fist, they push it up the guy's rectum, up to their elbow. And now what they're saying is, that can be harmful. If you ought to stop doing it, but if you can't, and I have this in black and white right in front of me, wear a rubber glove and use lots of lubrication so you don't damage the other person.
And then they wonder why they have so many diseases, you know? I don't understand it. But they won't let you say that they have a disease. They won't let you say it's a gay disease, and they won't let you examine the practices that have caused them, making them so susceptible to these diseases.
And what they do is they turn it around. At first they say, no, it's not a gay disease, it's everybody's problem. But then when everybody says, well, we should have premarital tests for AIDS, we should have partner notification, we should do other things, they say, well, no, it really is just staying with us, you know, it's not really spreading. So they keep turning the tables depending on which side they want public policy to fall on.
Incredible.
I would like to say, okay, I have a sister, okay, and she's acting in the lesbian act, okay, and I dislike what she's doing. I still love her, but I dislike what she's doing, just like I hate what everybody else is doing.
Gene, I just want to interrupt. Gene, you mentioned in your book a few areas where homosexuals can go for help if they wanted to change.
And you see, if I didn't care and love people who were involved in this terrible behavior, as repulsive as it may be, I wouldn't even mention that. And we wouldn't try to close the bathhouses. We'd say, well, let them kill each other. And it's the leadership in the homosexual movement which has been killing and leading these young men by the hundreds of thousands, like lemmings, into these baths. And so we list several organizations that people want help, that they can write to, for information on how to come out of the homosexual behavior and death style. And if you really care about yourself, or you care about somebody else who's involved in this, there is hope, there is a way out. There are thousands upon thousands of male homosexuals and lesbians who have been set free from the bondage of that behavior. And if people want more information, they can just write to FACT, or, just write FACT, F-A-C-T, and that's Box 90140. That's FACT, Box 90140, Arlington, Texas, 76003. And
we'll also give that address at the end if you want to get a hold of Gene Antonio.
The book's only $10.95. We have a newsletter that comes out every month. We have political action kits available. So if people want to write, we can certainly send them information. And as I say, if you write for the book, we'll send you a personally autographed copy. And it's the same as you get it for in a bookstore. And you can get the whole story on the disease.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thanks for the call, sir. We're going to go to another line. We have open lines at 961-2424 if you want to join this conversation. This is Kathy from Goleta. Welcome aboard, Kathy. You're with Gina, Antonio, and Sean on The Pursuit of Happiness. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to tell you I was on the road driving when I heard this, and I had to get out of my car and come to a phone.
Oh, okay.
Can you speak a little louder?
Can you speak up a little bit, Kathy?
Yeah, I can try.
Go ahead.
I want to say I really appreciate the fact that people, in spite of fear of being criticized and not being in the most popular mainstream of thought right now, are willing to stand up and say, I am heterosexual and I believe that it's normal. It's almost as if normal is a word that we're afraid to use these days.
Isn't it strange? You watch. I'm going to come on next week. I'll tell you, I'm sure I'm going to get some throwback to the show. I've gotten throwback to a lot of other shows I've done. But I don't care because this needs to be discussed. And this book that this gentleman has written, it's so full of facts and it's so well documented that you cannot argue with the facts.
Well, I tell you, you're going to, obviously you have a line of people outside your studio that want to argue with that fact.
Yeah.
But the point, I think that everybody's missing here, if we all stop to think we do have something in common, regardless of whether we're heterosexual or homosexual or lesbian or whatever. Personally, I do not believe that homosexuality and lesbianism is a normal state of being.
Mm-hmm.
But that really doesn't matter as much as thinking globally. I don't think that if we could all say, all right, is the heterosexual individual or is the lesbian individual thinking globally about the repercussions, I think that we'd have to stop and have a whole different ballgame here. It's like saying, okay, are we annihilating our race? Okay, are we going to get rid of the ozone layer?
Mm-hmm.
And where do we live then? And who is going to be left to enjoy it? This lady who said that there's two analogies I want to deal with.
Yeah, can you speak up a little bit? You're a little weak.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, all right, sorry.
Thanks.
This lesbian lady who said that, who called in and said that she has just given birth to a son, I congratulate her on her child. However, I feel that it's very sad that she feels that she had to go to that extreme and go through a deviant way of doing it in order to bring a son who loved women. What is this woman saying? She believes, obviously, that men do not love women, and she's telling us that she's got an emotional problem around men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that speaks for itself. And the analogy, this other woman who did journalism, and I do too, felt that it was very insulting, all this other stuff about very insulting about the analogies with monkeys ruling the zoo or running the zoo. Frankly, I do think that is the trend of society these days. I think that we have sort of gone a little off the road, a little off the track. And this analogy about a drunk, to say that homosexuals are responsible for AIDS, I don't think they're responsible for AIDS, but I do think they're responsible for passing it.
Right, that's very much so. Responsible for spreading it.
I do not think that I would want a homosexual teaching my kid,
I wouldn't.
Especially if my kid was an adolescent boy. And not only that, but the reason I wouldn't is the same reason I would not want to have a drunk on the board of drunk drivers and put a bottle of booze in front of him. Now, what do you expect this man's reaction or woman's reaction is going to be? Are they going to pass up the alcohol and say, no, because I'm on this board, I'm not going to drink, even though it's my natural inclination to do so?
Mm-hmm.
Now, would you expect, all right, this lady said that these teachers are not teaching young people homosexual practice.
But that's
Maybe
not
they're
true.
not teaching.
But
Whether they are or not,
yeah.
Do you think that they are not going to go with their natural inclination and be attracted to these young men? It just doesn't make sense.
You see, but it's an overwhelming spirit that says this is okay. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if we can get into another person's spirit. What I'm saying is that I don't think it's a wise thing to do, and I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
And personally, I'm not very political, but what I would like to say is if we all thought more globally, in a sense of what is the best good for all of us, instead of saying, I'm right, you're wrong, but if you're passing a disease, babe, back off. I mean,
got it.
You don't have a right to pass that disease to get into politics and say things for your own personal interest. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of screaming voices, putting me down for my opinion, but
Well, we appreciate your call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I just hope that we start thinking more globally.
I think so, and I think we have to live a little better lives and kind of raise the standards a little bit. And, don't be afraid to speak up and say, this is weird. And I think it's weird, and I don't care if you call me homophobic or not. I'll take it.
I'm not homophobic.
I'm not either. I don't suggest we should beat homosexuals up, and I would discourage people from being violent.
That's violence, and that's not good either.
No,
but
that's
I'll
right.
tell you, you two guys, I'm very proud of you, and I think that it's very, very nice to hear that somebody's willing to stand up and say something is normal and that they believe in normal.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. We're going to go to another line, Kathy. Thanks again. Call in again, will you? Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Let me see. We have one line open at 961-2425 if you want to join this conversation. We're going to go to Marguerite. Marguerite, you with us?
This is Margaret from Santa Barbara.
Margaret from Santa Barbara? Okay, go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, I just want to say that the first half hour of your show has made me terrified. But I do want to ask your commentator, people say that sodomy has been going on since the time of Caligula.
Right.
So why was it not until the 60s that it actually became, the cause of a disease?
Well, I think we lost him from Texas. We're going to have to call him back. What was the question again, Marguerite?
Well, I was just saying that, history shows that sodomy's been going on since, the times of Caligula, and and they say that, young Greek boys practiced it and that type of thing. And so I'm wondering, why the disease hasn't come about since then.
Well, there have been, throughout history, different diseases would pop up at a different time. And when we get him back on the line, he'd probably be able to explain it a little better. But what happens is, what he was explaining is that the practices these people are engaged in is tantamount to, playing in a sewer.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to use strong language, but that's the same thing. When we have medical knowledge. We know that bacteria and all these things exist in this day and age, and we know it's common sense you wouldn't let your child play over a sewer, would you?
No.
So what these people are engaging in, and he says it very graphically in his book, is tantamount to engaging in this behavior, and this is what's involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Tell us how to get a hold of that book. Well.
Okay, I'll give you the address again. Actually, he's going to be back on the line in a second, and if you want, I can let you have it. Let me see if this is him here. Gene, is that you?
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, I'm calling for the talk show.
Okay, can you hang on a minute?
Sure.
We'll put you on hold.
Okay.
We lost... Gene's going to be back on 2425, so we'll put him on hold.
This is Fred. Hello?
Yeah, okay, hold on a
Fred,
second.
I got a question for your guest.
Okay, well, we lost him, but go ahead. What's your question? I'll finish it off in this last 5 minutes.
Am I on the air?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead, Fred.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like Kathy, too. I just happened to turn on your station. I didn't know any preliminaries, and I had some questions for the gentleman on AIDS. I sort of feel like I heard some words about not spreading heterosexually, and I've always felt that would be the case because the statistics don't seem to bear out that it's catching hold and it's spread into the heterosexual community. It stays down in the noise level around 2 to 4%.
Yeah.
And there's so much hysteria over it. It seems to me that the psychological damage to the population in terms of sexual repression, fear, and anger, and results coming about is doing much more damage than the actual AIDS itself, and that unless it is heterosexually contagious, then it doesn't warrant the amount of psychological damage to the population in terms of all the fear and the hysteria. I went through that 6 years ago when it first came out. I started researching it, and I said, well, where is it? And then I began to theorize that, hey, it just isn't going to leap out into the heterosexual. Otherwise, it wouldn't be 2% of 80,000 or 100,000. It would be 500,000 right now of diagnosed cases. And it's just not spreading. Something's up. When is the CDC going to acknowledge, as the man said, that it just is almost as impossible, but not quite, almost impossible to spread heterosexually, and that all the fear and hysteria out there is totally unwarranted, and it's doing too much damage to people?
I don't know. You see, all these facts is just, to me, very good common sense. And the history he describes in his book, the past history of diseases, has shown that... actually, we have him back on the line. We're going to put him back on. Gene, you with us?
Last poor Sean, I thought I knew him well.
I'm glad we got you back, because I want you to give the address. We have one caller who is on the phone. Go ahead. Do you want to talk to him, Fred?
Hello, Fred.
Yeah, go ahead, Fred. He's on the line again.
I'll repeat here.
Quickly, we only have 30 seconds, so I know it's a short.
It seems like the hysteria over AIDS isn't warranted by the amount. It doesn't seem to be spreading. It should be 500,000 cases if it's truly. The statistics don't bear it out. It seems like it's doing more psychological damage to the population in terms of repression and fear and sexual frustration than warrants the amount of heterosexual cases. If there are 500,000 diagnosed cases, I would believe that it's spreading readily. It's a problem. The numbers just aren't there. When is the CDC going to acknowledge that, yeah, it doesn't spread?
Okay, Gene, you want to comment quickly? We're going to have to let you go, Fred. We appreciate the call, though, okay? We're going to do another show on this at another point, okay? So just have to tune in Tuesdays.
Is Fred going to talk now?
Yeah, who's this, Gene?
Yeah, this is
Gene, go ahead. Finish up.
Yeah, people can write for more information to FACT, F-A-C-T.
Okay.
Box 90140. Box 90140, Arlington, Texas.
Okay, the book is called The AIDS Cover-Up, The Real and Alarming Facts About AIDS, written by Gene Antonio. One more time, Gene, quick.
That's Box 90140, Arlington, Texas, 76004. The book's only $10.95. We have a newsletter. In fact, if that gentleman would write and close a couple dollars, we covered that very issue that he discussed there. In 2 or 3 years, we will have 500,000 cases of fully developed AIDS in this country. So it's we're just looking at the tip of the iceberg.
Also, you can write to me at the station, and I will give you the name and address, or call me after the show, and I will give you address how to get in touch with Gene. Gene, we're just out of time. I'm going to have to let you go. Thanks very much for a very interesting, very provocative day here at the station. We appreciate it, and I hope we can get you back on again.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Gene, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock here at KCSB FM Santa Barbara. I'm Sean Hannity. Join us each week for the Pursuit of Happiness. Until next week, I'm Sean Hannity, hoping your pursuit of happiness will be a successful one.
The preceding program has been a presentation of KCSB Public Affairs. The opinions expressed were those of the individual speakers and not necessarily